This is Radiant Voices Media.
Hey there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, the podcast for the curious minds, the dreamers, and the high achievers. Here we dive into self-help, wellness, and mindset shifts that help you become your best self. Let's get into it. This episode is brought to you by the Kova House, the running apparel brand built for runners who care about culture, community, and staying true to running. Kova House is more than gear, it's a movement. And we're kicking off our very first community group run on January 7th. If you want to be part of this running crew that values connection, culture, and showing up, RSVP now and join the Kova House community here in Adelaide. Stay true, stay moving with the Kova House. Hey there, and welcome to another episode. Today, we're diving into a story that's raw, honest, and deeply human. I'm sitting down with Steve Smallcalder, someone who has rebuilt his life from the inside out and chosen purpose, clarity, and service over the things that once held him back. In this conversation, we explore what motivates him, what gets him up each day, and why he shows up for others the way that he does. Steve opens up about his relationship with alcohol, what led him to walk away from drinking, and how sobriety reshaped his identity, his mindset, and his entire direction in life. This conversation is about resilience, self-awareness, and rewriting your story. So let's get into it. Perfect. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. Means a lot, especially taking the time out of your afternoon, really. But Steve, if I had an autobiography of you right in front of me, if the listener had it in front of them as well, maybe give the listener a little insight and some show notes on what they would find in that autobiography.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you're straight into it, right?
Straight into
How
it.
How long have you got?
Hey, take all the time you want.
I mean, that's a decent question. It's from my perspective, that autobiography would probably be cut into three parts. Like the first part would be, I'm proud of where I come from. I just went back to England for a couple of weeks just to check in and hang out with my family. So I'm very proud of where I grew up. So I grew up in the south of England. Mum and dad, sister as well. I loved where I grew up. I think we lived in a fantastic part of England, lived in the one house, went to the local primary school, local high school. So I found my childhood very grounding. There were a couple of things that took place. Like I had meningitis when I was 10, so I was in a coma for a stretch. So that was a bit rough. Parents got divorced 16 to 18, around that sort of time, but lived in a very loving household, Christian values. We didn't have much money, but we weren't impoverished emotionally nor financially, really, by comparison to a lot of people in the world. So I'm grateful for how I grew up and where I grew up. So that would probably be the first part of it. Mm-hmm. So that's 18 years. The next 25 years, probably on the surface of it, a successful life, I suppose.
Okay.
Left home to go to uni, left uni to then go to Sydney. So I moved to Sydney when I was 22. Had a decent career in financial services, lived in Kirribilli, got the ferry across to the city and all this kind of jazz. Like my dad would joke that I peaked too soon on that front. Yeah. Just the commute was just insane. Yeah. Good set of friends that became family because, the distance was quite big. Yeah. But can't really get much bigger, England to Australia. Yeah. Decent career in financial services, got married, two kids, lived in the lower North Shore. So on the surface of it, everything seemed pretty good, but there was an undertone there that led to some less than ideal outcomes. And really, by the age of 38, I lost it all. My life ended up in a bit of a crisis, and it drifted into crisis. So yeah, marriage failed, career was in a bit of a mess. Kids and my wife moved 1,372 kilometers away, and then of course COVID hit, so that made it all a fair bit bigger, worse. The reason one of the contributing factors, despite the subsurface stuff, was that alcohol was a common thread. It was threaded through everything in my life. I never developed skills to handle feelings.
Okay.
Couldn't identify emotions, let alone know how to handle them. I'd bury myself in drink as a coping mechanism. So that led to significant subpar outcomes. But then the third part of that book would be a significant turnaround, triggered by a letter that my then 8-year-old daughter gave me, which was basically I'm happy to read it to you later if you want me to, which was basically a, Daddy, can you change your ways? And that set me off on a pathway of just, 3 years down the track, I made the decision to stop drinking, and everything in life is better, like exponentially better since making that decision. There isn't one aspect of my life that's worse, despite the fears that we have of making a decision like that around friendship groups and how you spend your time and all that kind of stuff. So I sit here today as a man, 44-year-old fella, feeling very peaceful with things, feel very balanced, very, my marriage, put my marriage back together, and we're now living together as a, husband and wife and 2 kids. It's just been, the last couple of years, 2-3 years has been fantastic.
So you mentioned success. What does success mean to you? In part 2, you had in Sydney the job, the uni degree, all of that. What does success mean to you, and how has that shifted over the years?
Like now compared to back then. So success for me means I want to feel proud of myself. If I feel a sense of pride in terms of who I am, what I'm doing, then for me that feels successful. If I can make my daughter laugh, then I kind of think that's successful. If my wife wants to hang out with me, I feel like that's successful. My mum wants to talk to me. My sister still calls me her best friend. That's highly meaningful and successful for me. The fact that I can go home and spend time with my family, the fact that I've got a really great set of friends, a new set of friends here in Adelaide. I moved here 5 years ago and I have a really great set of friends in Adelaide. So these are all the markers for me that make me feel like my life is that word,
Successful. What early experiences or people in your life kind of shaped the way that you see things now? Like, how has that shifted throughout this autobiography, if we talk about that?
So, sorry, say that again, mate. The early.
Yeah, so the early experiences or people that you've had in your life, basically, was there anything that shaped kind of the way that your journey went, let's say?
I don't know. I don't know if there was. I think that, there were clearly experiences, early experiences around, I idolized my grandfather, right, both of them on both sides. And on my dad's side of the family, granddad in Bournemouth, he was the military guy. He was the guy who would tell us stories about World War II and how he led his troops through the North African desert. And he would only ever tell us the funny stories about that time, about how he dismissed his troops outside the pub, all that kind of banter. It was only, so we grew up, sitting on the floor listening to these stories, and, I idolized this guy. It was only towards the end of his life where he was, he would sob. He would be in tears because all the horrific stuff that he actually really experienced in the war, he had buried it. He buried it, and we can't ask him now, but my suspicion is he buried it with alcohol. He had a heart attack when he was 53. So there were troubles in that man that, the movement around mental health, it just came too late for that guy. And towards the end of his life, he was very, very emotional. So I think in terms of how I reflect on his life and how my experience with Grandad, I think there's definitely that early foundational stuff of get on with it.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it, mate. Yeah. Just move on.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
And that's common, isn't it? Especially for the male culture, really, not talk about it, bury it. And it's probably something that is changing. I think people are advocating more for men to speak up and that it's safe to speak up. But I think that's a common story that we hear a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Would you say, because I think you mentioned earlier that, you struggled dealing with the emotions and you didn't have tools back then. What kind of tools do you think you were lacking?
Probably I'd say a character trait around courage. Okay. So I think that's probably the biggest one.
What do you mean by that?
So in order to show up authentically, like just before we started here, I said, mate, I'm nervous about this. Yeah. And so for me to be able to share that with you, it actually takes a level of courage for me to say that, because I'm being authentic with you and I'm being somewhat, people use the word vulnerable, don't they? So in order to be able to do that on this is very, I suppose, a low level of intensity, but it does take courage to take that step. Yeah. Now, I did not have that. Okay. So I would be very, very cautious around sharing difficulties because ultimately I would see myself as being weak if I fronted up or I shared something even as trivial as that. Right. So I'd perpetually be putting front up. Yeah. So yeah, I think courage is the major message on that question. It's take the courageous pathway, take the uncomfortable pathway. Right. On the other side of it is it's highly likely that the result of that is going to be a level of connection with the person you're trying to talk to, because they'll see you better, they'll understand you better, and they'll be able to navigate with you better.
So how did that courage shift for you?
So how I became a bit more courageous. I had to look. I suppose I had to look deeply in the mirror and say, "What am I getting wrong? Like, what is the one thing? What is the one thing I'm really getting wrong?"
Yeah. What was that?
Alcohol, drinking too much, drinking excessively, hiding behind alcohol, hiding behind I suppose, an outgoing personality to really present this Steve to the world that really wasn't that true, but I could distract them by being upbeat and energetic. But behind the scenes, things were not great. So I think making a decision privately to say, right, alcohol's the one thing I'm getting wrong here. And that prospect was scary because, like I said a minute ago, alcohol was threaded in everything. Friendship groups, how I had fun, in inverted commas. Not so much in work, but you work in financial services in Sydney. You're meeting peer groups in the pub or lunches, and there's alcohol involved.
It's so much part of the Australian culture as well, right? So it's like you're saying, you go out social gatherings and it's always there, really. Yeah,
socially acceptable way to catch up with people, isn't it?
Exactly.
So facing that was extremely difficult. I tried a couple of times, I suppose, with professionals along the way, but never really was able to get on top of it. So I think that was so making that decision and then talking to my wife about it. Saying, look, I think I've I need to throw this thing away.
Yeah.
And she cried.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm onto the right thing here. So opening up like that, I think that set the foundations for a bit of a, people who have used the word transformation with me, but I think it seems a bit extreme or egotistical to say that, but I think it has been a transformation and it started there.
All right, let's talk about supplements that actually earn a spot in my routine. Not hype, just results. I love the Tropica matcha because I love clean energy without the crash. But also I like how this matcha is smooth, it's not bitter, and I genuinely look forward to having it every day. There's also the pineapple creatine. Creatine isn't just for muscle performance, you guys. There is more research coming out about how it supports mental clarity, mood, etc., etc. If you train, think, move, breathe, you should be taking creatine, in my opinion. At nighttime, I also love their beauty custard. It legit tastes like dessert and supports recovery while I sleep. It is collagen, so it's great for the skin, the hair, joints, longevity. Both men and women, everybody should be taking collagen. You guys can use my code JordSday10 at checkout to save yourself some money. That's JORDZDAY10 at checkout. JordSday10. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Let's maybe go back, if you don't mind, to that part 2. You were saying, you were in Sydney, and everything kind of reversed and exploded, basically. What was your experiences like back then? How were you going through your day to day?
Yeah, it was awful. So I was 30. It was October 2018, I think, when my marriage failed. That Karen's from Adelaide, so Karen perfectly justifiably moved back to Adelaide with the girls, and so during that next 18 months, just pre-COVID, it was a nightmare. Like, it was just fucking shocking. I wasn't waking up in the morning drinking, but throughout the course of the day, like, it's probably the first thing I thought about in the morning. And then around lunchtime, I'm thinking, okay, well, wait 3 more hours, I can have a drink. And then all these horrible feelings would go away. Like, it became, and that just got worse. And then COVID hit, and they shut the gyms, and I was forced out of the office to work from home, surrounded by all these kids' toys in my place, and there wasn't any kids or wife there. And obviously I was on my own. So it really got really unhealthy and quite unsafe, I'd say. There was a couple of occasions there where it wasn't it wasn't good, but it was kind of because I felt like I'd fucked up so badly. Castle was always so supportive, and I couldn't step into that space. I wasn't equipped well enough to step into that space and step up for her. The hangover was easier to deal with compared to the emotions of the circumstances within which I found myself. So kind of, I wouldn't say it was a form of self-harm, but it was like a control mechanism. I knew if I drank 3 bottles of wine, I was going to be hungover the next day, but I could control that. I can't control the fact that Zara, my daughter, who's 7 years old, is going to phone me up and cry down the phone to me. So that, the heavy stuff, I couldn't handle it. That spell there was ugly. I had time off work during that, which wasn't a good thing for me. I reconnected with work that was positive, but then COVID hit. So then, not only was I apart from them, I couldn't physically get here. So there was 5 months there where I didn't see the children. Which that was the worst spell. I had the Premier's office on speed dial. Like, when are you going to open the borders? Like, every day, it was like, I was even mapping out how I'd get from Sydney to cross the border without anyone seeing me. Through all these fucking dirt roads, Google Earthing it to see how I could get down here. But so the 23rd of July, 2020, they said they were going to open the borders. They didn't. And then I said, well, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I came down, but there's panic attacks around. I had a panic attack that week, called an ambulance. I thought I was dying. Like, just, I was in a mess. Like,
when did you realize that there was a problem then?
The truthful answer is probably when I was 18.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
the reality of it. This was a battle.
Yeah.
I would always be at university. I'd black out.
Right.
You know, I would just. It was always a problem. And you think. So when I was 21, leaving university, I went to get just a bit of a health check done. I was worried about liver and all that kind of stuff. And I said to myself, right, I'm going to go and be honest with this doctor. So I went in there and she asked a few questions. Then she asked, what does drinking look like for you? And her jaw dropped because I said, funnily enough, she was Australian, a young doctor in Swansea. And she said, so what does drinking look like for you? And I said, look, most nights of the week, we drink as much as we possibly can. Then we're sick and then we go out. So it's like, that's the warm up. But she said, if you're continuing to do this when you're 30, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. But I didn't.
You don't think of things like that when you're 18.
And then I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Where were we?
I love it. Yeah.
So it was always a problem. So from 18, mate, like I just thought, fuck, this is a thing. Like, but I couldn't. And then I met Kaza. Do you think all these major events, don't worry, mate, you'll meet the one and you'll stop. You'll have kids and you'll stop. You'll get a good career, you'll stop. It's like the bloke on the front of the Titanic with a bell saying, fuck, the iceberg. But it doesn't, like, there's too much momentum behind it. There's no skills to fix these things. So you think, but then when I was 30 then, Kaza, who we were engaged at the time, she said, how about giving this person a call? So I went to her place. She was an alcohol and drugs counsellor. And it's funny because she was Irish. Like, it's kind of funny listening to an Irish person giving. But her view was, if I went to AA, they would say I'm an alcoholic and they'd say you got to stop. But there are strategies that I believe you can put in place to manage this. And I'm not having a go at her. I'm sure she has successful stories in her career. I liked her because she spotted exactly who I was the minute I walked in. So I had this connection with her. She knew the type of drinker that I was. But it did end up sending me on a pathway of wasted energy. Okay. Yeah. I think I don't. I have some. It is what it is, and I am where I am, and I'm grateful for this. But I think at that point in time, maybe I could have tried to stop, but the reality is I wasn't ready. So it was. So you fast forward another 11 years, just this constant battle. A friend of mine talks about holidays, and you get 150% enjoyment out of a holiday, 50% in anticipation. Oh yeah, we're going away. 50% in the having the holiday, and 50% the reflection of the holiday. For me, like going out, the minute I'd get an invite to a party, 50% fucking anxious, so anxious. What am I going to do? How am I going to handle it? The 50% where you're there, you go out for I'd go out for 8 hours. Remember one or two, and then the shame and the physical issues and all those kind of things afterwards. So yeah, that went on like that went on for ages. It was the letter I got from Zara when she was 8. There are thousands of reasons, and my wife will listen to this, and she might think that she didn't do enough, but no one could have done anything really. Like, you have to really want it yourself. And the letter from my daughter, who was 8 at the time, on the 17th of May 2022, was the thing that got through to me. So
Yeah.
what?
Because you said back earlier that you weren't ready. That's come up a lot, and that was the thing for you. Um, what was that experience like for you when you were getting that letter, and was it like a sudden mindset shift? I'm going to change now, or what was that moment like for you?
It was a mindset shift. It was, okay, I probably still wasn't ready to face it completely. That's the truth of it, because that came through in May. I quit drinking on the 4th of January. So it was a realization. It was a realization that I was on a pathway to not setting the right example for her, not being around enough for her. But it took me a while, probably. It was probably then in the October where I said to Karen, I need to get on top of the drinking. I'm going to stop drinking. And then the 4th of January, after that spell, was when I had my last beer. Right. So it wasn't there are people who say they had a sudden shock to the system and it really jolted them out of it. That I don't think that was my experience. I needed more time than that because of the extent to which it was in my life. There were so many what ifs. How am I going to handle that? How am I going to handle this? Etc. So it was the trigger that set me off on a different pathway.
I think you hit a key point there. I think everybody's experience is quite different, isn't it? It's vastly different. Sometimes we go through scenarios that are similar, but I think people's experience within a scenario is quite different, really. So I think that's why I like having, people like yourself on the show and others on the show, because I think chatting through lived experience, people listening or the person listening right now might realize that, again, like there is, let's say, a situation, but I think everybody's experience with that situation is vastly different, basically. What so you said, it took what is that, about 6 months? Were there any steps that you were kind of preparing for through that time so that when the day came, you kind of had things planned out, or what was that like for you, that 6 month period?
Yeah, upon reflection, I'm not sure I would encourage people to follow the pathway that I did. Okay. Perhaps you would seek out professional help a bit sooner.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's probably something that I would encourage people to do. But yeah, there was, and I spent a lot of time in the first 12 months of not drinking, like documenting things, writing things down. I found it very, very helpful. And there's probably about 12 or 13 things that I did in the lead up to and after that I found extremely, extremely helpful. And I've shared that with people who've reached out to me about how it might help. But the first thing I think was ignoring the curiosity piece. So the first thing I think I tried to do was find a role model, someone in the public eye who I could think, well, they have the language around this topic that I can't find. Right. So it wasn't like the Steve-O or, some of those UK rock star kind of Ozzy Osbourne. It wasn't that kind of Ozzy Osbourne type story. It's more like there was one around Drew Barrymore. There's what's his name, the English actor that Spider-Man. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. Holland. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I think there's been some people like that I kind of looked up to. Yeah. So okay, well, they seem to have had a similar experience to me, or the language that they're using to describe their experience with alcohol. I can connect with that. So that was the first thing, to try and find that. Ben Affleck was another one. Yeah. Next thing was around the topic of purpose. Okay. What's going to connect me to something deeper than all of this that will mean I will stay on course. How do I stay on track? Yeah. And that's where the external factors are close to being a non-event. That intrinsic values driven motivation or concepts, that's where it really, and that I want to be proud of myself. That's where that came from. Right. Third thing was I chose a date in the future. Okay. So I wasn't my process, whatever it wasn't. I'm done with it. It's done. It was. I'm actually gonna choose a day in the future, and that's when I'm gonna have my last beer. I don't know why I did that, but I think it helped me prepare upon reflection. I don't know why I did it at the time, but upon reflection, it helped me prepare because I knew I was going to have some spare time on my hands. So I felt like I kind of needed to map it out a little bit. And the reality was with Karen as well, with Kaza, at the time we weren't living together, but we used to enjoy sharing a drink. There were spells where I've got no stop button, but there were spells there where Kaz and I would have a drink over dinner and all that kind of stuff. And it was nice. I wanted her to be on this journey with me. So the next thing, I picked the date, which was my birthday, 4th of January. Then told Karen and told two close people. I told my sister and another good mate. Then I started to plan ahead. Okay, what's this going to look like? How am I going to spend my time? What professional help am I going to need? So engaged a psychologist who happened to be a relationship psychologist as well, because we needed that. Needed, it's the right way of saying it. Yeah. So yeah, there was and then other things after the event, like David Goggins talks about cookies in the jar, doesn't he? Just capture your wins, jot down the little wins that you're having so you don't forget. Set goals. I've took up running. I've run a few marathons since that. So other small little things, just make sure you say yes to a party, still go out, still make sure you connect with your friends and family. The meaningful ones are the ones who stick by you during that spell. You're going to want to hang out with them. If they want to go to the pub, go. Yeah. There are ways that you can handle that. Yeah, that's probably a short version of. There's probably about 12 or 13 things that I did. That's the high level answer.
All right, I want to talk to you about sunglasses made for runners by runners. That's why I wear Your Run sunglasses. Lightweight, zero bounce, and they stay locked in even when you are sweating through speed sessions, long runs, out in the sun, whatever it might be. They are stylish enough for daily wear, durable enough for race day, and just the perfect combo. Honestly, I love brands that get the sport, get the grind, and support the running community, not just the podium finishers. If you're serious about your run gear and want shades that perform as hard as you, go check out Your Run. Use my code Jordan10 to save some money and get yourself some stylish sunnies that actually perform and look good. Run smart, stay protected, look good doing it with Your Run sunnies. So what motivates you now these days, when it comes to waking up in the morning and just going through life? What would you say is your driving factor?
Driving, I've said it a few times, but being proud of myself. I think for me, I want to make sure that everything that I'm doing, the action I'm taking, the commitments I'm making during the day, I'm proud of my contribution to whatever I'm doing, be it at home with my family or at work, or in the run club that you and I both attend. Just show up there and give it a crack, rally around people. So I think that's because that stuff, no one can take that off you. Like no one can take. You can have a nice car or whatever, wherever you think a nice car is, that can be taken away. But that self-respect piece is an important thing. Motivation, I think. That's probably if I try to land on something that motivated me, it's that. And I'm a father to two daughters, so that carries with it it's fun and I love it. It carries a weight of responsibility. I want to make sure I'm setting the right just want to show them what a good man is. So they've got something good to benchmark future partners against. So that I take that quite seriously.
How do you stay proud of yourself? So, when something comes up that, might not be necessarily a good experience, how do you work through that and how do you stay proud?
Those doubts, I suppose, the self-doubt that you might creep in. I think, how do I stay proud? Look, those nasty feelings, they pass, mate. They pass. When I first quit drinking, I did not know how. So drinking obviously was the thing that I would turn to push those nasty feelings away. If I'd let myself down, I would have a drink and that feeling would go away. So drinking was the solution, not the problem. You see, the problem was the nasty feeling that I couldn't handle. So you take drinking away, you're left with uncomfortable feelings that you have no strategy to handle on day one. So early on, I would handle that by if I felt like I'd had a rough day, I'd go driving, mate. I'd just drive around the block. I'd put Prodigy on as loud as I could and just trying to get it out of my head that way. There's only so much money you've got in the bank for petrol, so you can't keep doing that. But I think just keep showing up. I think I just keep showing up, mate. Stay on track with this pathway of trying to be authentic, letting people know when they might have let you down, or be it in a relationship or through work, and trying to stay on track that way. There are experiences that I've had since then where I've probably beaten myself up a little bit, but the reality is the things that I tend to beat myself up on, or maybe a lot of people do, they don't really mean that much. I got stuck in Sydney Marathon, and I knew I wasn't going to hit my PB, and I started to, what you doing, Steve? Like, you're not good enough for this, all that kind of stuff. It's like, mate, you got the same medal as everyone else. Like, it's just those kind of things do creep in.
Yeah. So what tools then have you gained to replace the drinking?
I think in terms of I've probably said it a few times, but it's trying to share exactly how you're feeling in that moment. It's getting home from work and saying, "Kaz, I've not had a particularly good day today." Even with my children, mate. Even with my children, I'd say, "Kids, can you just give me a minute? Because I've not had a good day in work today. I'm feeling a bit." And do you know what? They respond so well to that stuff. So it comes back down to being courageous with your emotions and your feelings, and sharing it. And when you share it, you see the response of the other person. And I think I think that's the secret sauce to a lot of this stuff.
And it's special, I think, going through things with others, really, and not alone. You need to have that courage for it, but I think it's a special feeling too, working through something with somebody else. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a major part of it. It's trying to understand how you're feeling and express how you're feeling. And the more you practice that, the better. I'm only 3 years into this, right? It's only 3 years, and it was 25 before. So I'm not well averse with this just yet, but I'm on the right pathway. And I think that to complement that, it's setting goals and achieving them, setting hard goals and achieving them forms part of the secret sauce to replacing a crutch like alcohol. Proving to yourself that you can endure kilometer 36 to 38, the hardest part of a marathon, and you come out the other side. fighting away those demons. That kind of, I think endurance sport for me, is marathons endurance sport? Probably, isn't it? It's close, isn't it? I reckon it's bloody close.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's been a fantastic thing for me. I'm at a stage of life where, married and 2 kids, like the social life is mixing social life with exercise is just a fantastic mix for me. It ticks the 2 boxes. So yeah, I think setting and achieving goals is part of it.
I think, yeah, running and endurance sport is special because it's, you're part of a community, but I think when you're in something so global and so broad as running, everybody out there has a certain story and a certain experience, right? And I think just being around others and absorbing sometimes energies is quite important. And, whether you are bringing in, let's say you've had a bad day, and just being around other groups of people who are all there for a certain goal. You're out there. It's what was it yesterday? 1 kilometer sprints or whatever. Yeah. But regardless of having a bad morning or not, I think you're there, you can leave it behind you, and that's something special, really, being around others and yeah, just being in part of a community, basically. Um when you are, I guess, going through, day to day, and I think you've been quite vocal and you have, I guess, spoken a lot about this kind of stuff and shared your story. Do you find that that's part of the healing for you, or what is the reasoning for that?
Absolutely, it's part of the healing for sure. I find it very therapeutic talking about it. I love talking about it. Because the reason why I do this is because if I can share my story and soapbox this, which is quite difficult to do, on occasions it's quite difficult to do, because there's a lot of shame attached to historical patterns and things like that. And I know my mum's going to listen to this as well, and my dad, and like people who are really close to me, and I hurt people along the way. Okay, so that's very, very difficult to deal with, but it's part of what can happen. So if I've hurt my daughter to the extent that she has written a letter to me, and I can find words to describe and vocalize the issues that I had, and it prevents the next person from getting a letter from their daughter when they're years old. I'm getting tingles now, right? So I'm getting for me that's incredibly purposeful and meaningful. So and that sentiment or that goal has been validated a few times because not happy. I push this stuff through Instagram, and I occasionally get messages from people who may have been struggling, or they send me words of encouragement, keep doing what you're doing because it's really helping. Then as a passion project on the side, I think this is finding it very helpful and therapeutic for myself. I always learn when I talk to somebody else. They say teaching is a fantastic way of learning, isn't
And I think it goes back to what you've mentioned a few times. You have to have the courage to open up something so personable and personal, really. I think it's a testament to anybody. And it might be too, like, again, everybody goes through experience different, right? Some people it might be more beneficial for them to internalize and to deal with it through counseling or whatever it might be. And others, it might be to, speak publicly or speak to friends and family or whatever. I find it interesting how people go through life, because we all go through it so similarly, but also differently as well. What do you think you're afraid of? What are your fears when you walk through, your day to day now? Yeah.
Do you know what? I can tell you what I'm not afraid of drinking again.
Okay. Yeah. Why is that?
The correlation between me drinking and me letting myself down is 100%.
Wow.
There is no wiggle room in that thing. So if I want to continue to be continue to grow in a positive way, I'm just not going to engage with anything that puts that at risk. There's too much at stake. I've lost it all before, and I am confident I would lose it again because I don't have a stop button.
Is that come from you internally, or do you think there's external?
That's from me.
Yeah.
That's from me, and I suppose the external world has shown me that it's highly likely that could happen. So I suppose I become fearful. Am I going to replace alcohol with something else? So I have hypothesized around that one with like a therapist, because you kind of wonder, have I replaced alcohol with excessive exercise? Or am I heading down an unhealthy pathway somewhere else? So I constantly do check in with myself on that. Am I going overboard here? Or, I think that's probably it. Day-to-day life being fearful. I don't step up into the space. I stagnate. I become happy with the status quo. I've done it now. I'm fine. I don't want to drift into a mediocrity. Like the last 3 years have been fantastic, and I want to keep on that trajectory. Don't want to take it for granted. Don't want to take things for granted. I'm fearful of that. My wife gave me a second chance. I'm never going to. I will. I fear that. That I take that for granted.
What have you learned about yourself over the last 3 years?
I can handle adversity. I can endure very, very difficult things. I can be the life and soul of the party without drinking. I set a good example for people. But my values are strong. Standards are higher than they ever have been. They're probably the big ones.
So then how do you go through challenges right now? How do you go through challenges and get over challenges? Because, you need to have adversity, and those are some good skills to have. I think you've brushed on a lot in the last 45 minutes when it comes to going through these challenges. But I guess alcohol was that thing. What is it now for you? How would you deal with something tomorrow if it came up?
A deep belief that time is on your side, mate. Okay, so time is on your side. There isn't much that you can stumble across unless you need a doctor immediately for surgery. There isn't much that time can't heal. So there's been some, I've got some really good friends at the moment going through relationship breakdown. Multiple friends at the moment going through relationship breakdown. And whilst that's not my direct challenge itself, it does affect me. But so I think just being patient, not rushing things, slowing down, are all things that are extremely helpful.
What do you look forward to?
Seeing my children, seeing my wife, holidays, running a sub 3 hour 30 marathon. That box will get ticked soon. I like the challenge. I like setting and achieving goals and challenges. That was a missing component before.
What do you think's next for you in terms of growth, in terms of purpose, maybe contributing to, other people's lives? What do you think is next for you?
I think I'm still in a space where I don't want to take too much more on than I currently have, if it's okay to say that. Because, like I said, I think with probably long term in mind. So 25 years of acting in a particular way. I'm only 3 years into this. I'm still finding my feet with it. You can probably tell by I still struggle to find the language around this stuff. I'm still learning about this topic. So to make sure that I'm around for my wife, to make sure that I take the children either to school, pick them up every day. Make sure that that's another thing. I'm fearful of so my work, my career has stepped up a few notches in a very, very positive way, and next year it will go that way again. Yep. So I'm scared that I'm going to step over that, and that will impede a bit too much on the rhythm and balance that I have in life. So I think the just controlling that a bit, I think is part of what my next 12 months look like. So in terms of goals, I think honestly it's more of the same.
To the person listening right now that feels stuck with anything in life, what is something that you would tell that person?
I would seek professional help. Okay. So if my granddad was around today when he was 35, I think the rest of his life would have been somewhat different had he have been able to go and speak to someone professional. So like we're talking here about, you use the right words, it's my lived experience. We're talking about my lived experience with a lot of this stuff. I think if someone is stuck in a rut or having difficulty with a particular topic, other than talking to friends and letting them know, the first thing I would do would be go and talk to a professional, because that is not a declaration of weakness. It's far from it. It's a declaration that you want to understand and learn about what on earth is going on with your particular circumstance. And there are avenues through which that can be cost effective. So it doesn't need to cost a lot of money. But if you find a good one, if you don't connect with the first one, go and see another one.
I love that.
But yeah, because I think that's something that I love, knowing that that's there, and it's there where you can a safe place where you can go and be yourself, and you'll learn a few things that way. I think if someone's in that kind of position, that would be the first thing I would suggest they do.
You've mentioned a few times, you have goals with running, and, being part of that community is helpful for you. What is running for you? What does running mean for you?
It means a lot. I'm extremely grateful for running. So early on, so the 4th of January is when I quit drinking, and it was like the 7th of January when I went for a run. And I went for a run with a friend of mine, Lockie, down at the beach, Social Run Code down in Glenelg, Somerton. What that did was it set me off. It set me off on a new pathway, where that I suppose the collective, the mixture of socializing and exercising. The first few times I did it, it was like a new window for me. You can actually, we're having quite an intense conversation because we're eyeballing each other. But if we wanted to have a less intense conversation, we'd look that way and we'll go for a run. And you can share, and it's just it was a place where I started to practice talking freely about what might be going on. And I made connections through that with another mate called Dave, who was on the same pathway as me, just a few months behind. But more deeply than that, so I think the sense of community that you were speaking about before, active, fresh air, sunshine, all that kind of stuff was all part of the answer. The thing I'm most grateful for running is that it brought out emotions in me. Like early on, when I go for a run on my own, I'd find myself crying. And, I told Karen about that. And it was kind of it was her response to me was that was one of the first times she'd really thought I was upset. So I don't know how to describe it, but the act of going out and running on my own it conjured up, not because I was doing something that's necessarily something particularly hard, it's just an easy run. But reflecting on the past made me feel incredibly emotional.
Do you choose, because I think that's very interesting, because I think to when I go for solo runs, for example, like you're out there by yourself, maybe music, maybe not music, but you're lost in nature, you're lost kind of in your thoughts in a sense. Do you think, do you find you lean towards running part of a community to avoid that kind of feeling at all? Do you catch yourself that way, or do you still choose to go for solo runs on your own?
Yeah, I do both. Yeah, I do both. So I go, maybe half my runs are on my own, and the other half are with people. So it still happens quite frequently. I say quite frequently, a few times a month, where you start to connect with actually how you're feeling, because those layers that you have are being stripped off you because you're you're exerting yourself. So you're kind of like peeling back the layers, and you think, okay, that's a nasty feeling. What's going on there? Kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's what I think I love about running. And again, the community, or just the art of running, is there is kind of more to it than that goal of being a fast runner, or the goal of it all being performance. I think for a lot of people, I don't even want to give it a percentage, but for a majority of people, it is that escape sometimes, and I think it's a great tool, really, that can be used to reflect. I think reflection is key, and you've mentioned it a few times, reflection and how you've gone through it. And I just find that kind of an interesting point, because I think back to, again, me going through solo runs, and just randomly thoughts come up, random reflections over the years, and I don't know where it's come from, but it just kind of sometimes happens, really. What do you think goal setting is for you? So, do you find creating goals to be effective? Are you someone that creates goals, or what is that process like for you?
Yeah, I'm a big goal setter. Okay. So my career is actually helping people set goals and achieve them. Working in financial services, that's the core part of our value proposition. And I believe I'm in a better position now, much better position now than I ever have been, to assist people with that kind of topic. So I'm a big believer in goal setting, and the process of the attempt to achieve it. The process is so you can set a goal. You might hit it or miss it, but if you've enjoyed the journey, you've learned a few things along the way, there's always key takeaways that you can pick up on. Then I think that's the beauty in setting goals. It's not the outcome necessarily, but the process, the pursuit of it is where the beauty really sits. So the reason why I think you said why do I set goals, for lots of different reasons, but I want to set an example for my daughters. I want to see that they, especially at the finish line of a marathon, they see a lot of people at the start line. So they come to the start line. I've done 5. They come to the start and the finish. So they see the excitement, the nerves, the anticipation. Then they see the blood, sweat, and tears, and the struggle, and the real tears after crossing the line. So I think that's a big thing for me, is showing them that.
To the person listening right now, what is a key takeaway that you want them to leave with today?
The simplest key takeaway is you don't need alcohol in your life to have fun. You can reconnect with the beauty that is life in a much deeper level without it. And the fears that you have in anticipation of making what could be a really large decision are legitimate. They're completely legitimate. But if you can face them, on the other side of it is a world that's just incredible. So without a snazzy little tagline that I could have prepared for you, I think that's it. And but we can't underplay or downplay how scary that that prospect is for people. I think there is a bit more of a movement now towards living alcohol free. My dad lives in this village in the middle of nowhere, and the alcohol free options in his local little pub are extensive. So it's good to see those. Good to see those changes, but that's all external. Internally, people really struggle with the thought of what might happen if I quit drinking. What might happen if I live alcohol free? Am I going to pick up something else? And it's all perfectly legitimate, but there's a pathway there that you can follow that it's just amazing on the other side.
And where can people follow you and find you?
Sure. So I use Instagram for alcohol-free stuff. That's probably the major one.
There you go. So that'll be in the show notes for you listening. So you can definitely check that out. But thank you. I think, you've brought up courage. Thank you for having the courage to share this with the listener today. I think again, the reason why I wanted to have you on and why I like to talk about this kind of stuff is because I think chatting about people's lived experience, it can be not, I don't think enlightening's the word that I want to use, but it can just provide a bit of an insight to, again, people's experience and how they've gone through something and, maybe spark some motivation in someone's life. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. And a massive thank you to Steve for opening up and sharing his lived experience with alcohol. His honesty is a reminder that none of us are alone in what we face and that real help and support are always out there if you need it. Please remember, this episode is Steve's personal story. It is not professional advice, and if you are struggling or someone close to you is, reaching out to a qualified professional or support service can make a real difference. Thanks again for listening. Stay curious and stay growing, and I will see you in the next episode.